Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sakamoto Days, Season 1, Episode 17. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, first and foremost, we're picking up with slurring them as, was it Kashima? Or is it Kishima? Either way, the reindeer dude is repairing, was it Gaku's hand or arm rather, and like sewing it back on, and it's like, oh, it's only possible because whoever sliced it off did such a good job that they basically didn't do any nerve damage. It's like, oh, who could have like bested you like that? Which even Sora was telling Gaku, like, hey, don't feel bad about it. You're kind of the only person who's ever fought Sakamoto and survived. And I love they talk about him in like a ghost story type of way. It's like, yo, who is that guy? It's like, even Sora's like, I don't know. No one knows. No one knows how long he's been a part of the Order, what his actual relationship with the JAA is. Like, he's an enigma. And it's just, even saying like some people like kind of made it almost seem like this ghost story of like, oh yeah, he's an amalgamation of like, yo, if a whole bunch of people believe in something, it's something that becomes real. And he's like, oh, isn't that kind of funny to think about, like people, us like making up an entire being? But it's like, yeah, but they're trying to decide their next move, and it's like, are we going to hit the other JAA branches? It's like, no, they're going to be on high alert. Even he's willing to admit this plan. They made a point, but it wasn't what they fully planned, and who knows what the full plan would have been, because like I said, even he didn't account for Sakamoto to show up, because the guy does his own thing. It's like, I don't know what he's thinking, what he's all about. The guy's just kind of like, I guess you could make the argument he's kind of just walking death in a way. So, but the fact is, even Slur's kind of like reluctant around him, knowing like that's just a force of nature in its own right. So like, yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, he's also like, I also wasn't expecting to run into Sakamoto either. And I'm curious, is he happy or disappointed to see, like, when things were heating up, when Sakamoto was pissed the moment he referenced Hannah, like, that got him excited, but I don't know if he's disappointed that like Sakamoto was pulling back at the last second. I don't know if he even realized that before the fight got interrupted. So I don't know if he even picked up on that. So, because for him, he's probably happy to think like, oh, Sakamoto, you're the same, but you're not as strong, but there's still something there. It was exciting, but like he hasn't really seen or the depths of like how much Sakamoto's changed in these 5 years. So I don't know. I'm curious to like really get an insight on what his opinion of Sakamoto now is. But like I said, I don't think he got a good enough grasp in that moment. He probably won't till their next meeting. But like I said, they're not making any direct moves against the JAA right now. They've got to kind of like replenish their forces, which is interesting too, because the Order's in the same boat, because the episode actually opened with Shishiba and Ogarashi, which I love that after she tore up all those like Torii gates, finishing off Dump, that she's like, oh, I finally get what you mean about like someone trashing your home. He's like, well, this is more than just trash. Like 40% of like the base was like, I don't know if that's just like the building itself or whether that's just about the amount of members that were killed. It was like 40% was the number he threw out there. And so it's like, yeah, we kind of, once again, kind of got caught with the pants lacking. So he's like, well, pants lacking, sorry, pants down. So it's like, we're going to have to bring in the other members. There's one in particular he referenced that Ogarashi was like, I don't like that. I don't like that person. He's like, come on, play nice. But he also talks about the position that the JAA is in. Not only are their stock prices down, also the fact is, which is kind of interesting, and I guess makes sense that it would be a publicly traded company, but also a lot of clients have cut back on their commissions. I mean, multiple things of like, well, you must not be that good at your job. Like, I mean, assassins getting got, like, but I think this also plays into what Sora wanted. He wants to destroy the JAA, not just like kill its member. He wants to destroy its reputation. He wants to burn it to the ground as an entity. So once again, for what reasons, we'll have to wait to see. But so that's just, so I think it's the beautiful parallel of showing us the JAA, like what they're doing next in the aftermath of this, and then cutting to Slur, what him and his crew are up to next. And their plan is to recruit more members to kind of fill out the roster. And I think it was Gaku was like, oh, you're going to get more members from the JAA. And he was like, no, I'd rather not deal with anyone contaminated I want someone uncontaminated. And he's putting things in motion. And at the time I was like, I'm wondering what that means. What are you going to pull from? And now it wasn't until the episode was over I was like, oh, that's probably what he means. He's probably talking about the new crop of members at the JCC. Because it seems like Uda is his only inside person. So he wants to turn people against the organization. But I'm assuming he wants to go with the fresh mind. Those who haven't been basically drunk the Kool-Aid of the JAA. Because you could probably bring them over. But it's like you're stained if you've been a part of the JAA. So he wants people who are outside of it. Even people who are trying to join it. As long as you haven't joined the organization, you're still a fresh enough baby chick that he wants to bring you into his flock. So that's what I'm seeing. So I guess that's what he's doing. So I'm curious, does he have someone on the inside of the JCC to like sway people? Which, once again, unintentionally, him and Sakamoto are going to be clashing, considering Sakamoto made, and everyone's, this is the planning phase of everyone like trying to like plot out their next, plot point. I even love Sakamoto coming back to the store, looking like, oh, everything seems arranged, and then he looks at the back of like chips, and he's like a bag of chips or something, and he's like, these are extremely fresh. And then he's thinking about what Nagamo said. He's like, this shop got messed up. These are like too recent, like, because he probably has stocked the shelves, so he knows how often they get like a fresh supply. He's like, this is too fresh, so it's like something happened. He had to replace stuff in this place, didn't he? So he's pissed about that. Then you have the whole conversation where the whole JCC comes up, and apparently Shin says he never actually went to the school. He never actually went through the proper channels to get his license. It was actually external means he went to. So it's interesting. And obviously, like, Zhao Teng is outside of all of this. She was part of the mafia, but she never became a hitman. It's kind of interesting to think of. I mean, well, we know Hisuke went through it. Hisuke went through it because we saw it. So, a little bit in the flashbacks of his episode. And I love. We learned some stuff about the JCC. The thing I was about to say I love is when Aoi comes out and she's like, while I was cleaning up, I found this. You better not try to be turning our daughter into a young assassin. He's like, no, honey. Of course I wouldn't. But it's because it's part of their plan. They're going to infiltrate the JCC. But either way, we find out like just a lot of stuff about it, that they have like 1,000 students at any time. The ratio is like 8-2, male to female. Only 10% of their students actually become fully licensed hitmen. The other 90% either die or quit. When there's like 35 instructors, and it's a 4-year school. So interesting. And it's basically like a boarding school. And it's like, oh, shouldn't Sakamoto be able to go in because he's alumni? He's like, yeah, even with that, I can't, like, entering isn't easy, and it probably also like, well, there's too many questions if I show up to, and maybe because he quit, that'd probably make it even less likely for him to get into. So, but the plan is we're going to sneak into the JCC by pretending to be new recruits. And apparently, because there's no age limit, which is interesting, because it made me think about the kaiju number 8 of it all. There's a defense force, and there's an age limit that was like boosted and cut off. Like the age limit, it's like, what was it, 32 or 33? I can't remember now. I think it's 33. But yeah. So it's interesting to know that they have no age limit, so anyone of any age could end up joining. But basically the transfer program, because I think the general missions are no longer available, so now anyone that wants to join has to go through the transfer means. And so they're taking a flight there, and I was like, the flight's got to have something to do with it. Because I think in the opening, you see people falling out of like a plane that's going to destroy it. So I'm assuming that's the next part of the test. We'll see, but we'll have to wait and see if that ends up being the case or not. But we get to meet a few interesting characters on the flight. Obviously, Sakamoto and Shin are just trying to like keep everything low key. Like Sakamoto's like, well, no one's going to notice me because I'm going to be in disguise. I'm like, people have a hard time recognizing you because of all the weight you put on. But I think it's probably going to be a thing of, there's probably people from there who knows how often the instructors get switched out. So, we don't know how long ago that was. Because we know Sakamoto was like in his teenage years when he was there. Because that was what I was thinking about. Because we get introduced to a character on this flight. What was his name? Like Mumfew or something like that. He's like a 14-year-old. He seems like he might be a prodigy. But he's basically high school age, and Sakamoto was high school age when him and like Boyd and Nagumo went there all those years ago. But I'm also curious. I'm so curious when Sakamoto actually started like any hitman training, because that's a part of his past we haven't really gone into, like what got him into the hitman field, what made him decide to look into it and become one, and how long, like, how much was he training before he got into the JCC. Stuff like that I'm curious about. But yeah, they're pretty calm, cool, and collected. And there's another character who screams main character. Well, I don't know. Like the moment I saw her, she has like that turquoise blue hair. I was like, oh yeah, you're definitely an important character. I was like, are you going to be a character that joins the Sakamoto family? It feels like that. Once again, never read the manga. I have no idea. That's not based on anything I know. I actually don't want to know what her position. I mean, just as easily, some of the characters we met here could just as easily not join Sakamoto and end up joining Slur's side of things. So. But she kind of looks like the character that Hyo referenced last episode. It's like someone that Sakamoto, Nagumo were running with back in the day. And I'd said at the time, I was like, I wonder, does that have any correlation with what the Slur situation is? But maybe not. That's just kind of been my running theory. But she looks a lot like her in the regards of like her hair, because she's in the intro and you see it. But so I'm wondering, I'm like, oh, because she references later on to Sakamoto, there's someone she looks up to. So I'm wondering if that's like her big sister or something that's not around anymore. Like the fact that Sakamoto doesn't like even think of anything like, oh, like, so maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe that's not the case at all. But you would almost expect Sakamoto to have some inkling. But maybe he doesn't put two and two together, that if there is some correlation between those characters, maybe Sakamoto doesn't realize it. Or maybe he does and he's just keeping that super close to his vest, even from us as the audience. But either way, some of the other recruits are like getting pissy and running their mouth off because like Sakamoto and Shin are just acting normal and just talking and stuff like that. I mean, it's like obviously this isn't as bad for them because they are already professionals. Well, an ex-professional. Well, technically two ex-professionals. Well, because Shin's still under the JAA, I believe, because he still has his license and stuff. So he just doesn't take any like jobs from them and stuff like that. But getting into it, because even Sakamoto's like, this is like a lot tougher than going through the general admission, so you have to be wary and being careful. And so the flight attendant says like, yo, what this challenge is going to be is that there's going to be secretly like people from the JCC, either instructors or senior students, are going to be hidden amongst the ranks of people here. They all have bullets on them. You have to take one of those bullets from them. And the 14-year-old dude was like, oh, does that mean we can kill him? It's like, yeah, it's a free-for-all. And then like a whole bunch of random weapons fall and everyone starts getting locked and loaded. And we see some people. Poor guy that was hiding in the toilet got lit up. The poor bastard. There was that guy who seemed like the analytic type, because he's running by, he's kind of freeze framing and everything. He's like, okay, so we're looking for either senior members or instructors, so look for someone in like their mid to late 20s or something like that, or maybe early to mid 20s, whatever the case may be. He was eliminating what people could be like, worth keeping an eye on or look out for. And like I said, it's just a free-for-all of just a whole bunch of splatter, blood, and death. What was that one guy? What was his name? Kill Baby was his like assassin name or whatever. The guy that was starting shit with Shin and Sakamoto ate some of his spaghetti and threw the rest on the floor, talking about how it wasn't even hot. And it's like, even Shin was like, should I kill him? It's like, no, killing him won't bring back my spaghetti. But yeah, like he's pissed. He's like, yo, I should get a new weapon because his weapon's a spatula. She takes the spatula, the flight attendant takes the spatula from him and then pimp slaps the hell out of him. Because obviously it's like, it's all about you using your environment to your advantage, which obviously we've seen Sakamoto do that continuously, always using everything. And obviously the blue-haired girl, initially feeling bad for them, she's like, oh, I'm wishing you guys luck, but she's like, I should be worried about myself, because people kind of look down upon her and don't think she's cut out for it, so she's here to prove herself. Because this is a situation just like the Kaiju number 8 situation with Defense Force. You can take the exam as many times as you want, especially in this case, consider, well, you have less of a cutoff in this case than, like I said, with the Kaiju number 8 situation, because the Defense Force's cutoff age is like 33. In this regard, it's there's no age limit, so people take it time and time again. Like Kill Baby, this is like his like 6th or 7th time, so. And the poor blue-haired girl, though, she gets this massive gun, and then she, like, accidentally unloads it, and some of the guys are panicked, and they're like, please don't kill us. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I wonder if her shtick is going to be that she's going to be, like, extremely lucky, because, like, unlike that, like, there's some decent-sized guns, but she got a pretty massive gun, so I'm wondering if her shtick's going to be, like, she's kind of, like, maybe a little clumsy, or maybe, you know, might not seem like the best, but maybe she has a little bit of, like, innate luck to her, or something like that. And she felt bad when Sakamoto only got the pin. She's like, I shouldn't be worried about it, but she wanted to help him out. But then she saw him put into work with the pin, which draws too much attention because now people think he's an instructor with the bullets, and he proceeds to take everybody down. He even has her back when I think someone tried to attack her or something. Like, it just, and he ends up taking down one of the guys, and the guy has 3 bullets on him. And she's like, oh my god, you're so strong and skilled. He's like, wait, did I go too hard in the paint? I also love that he's legitimately wearing a t-shirt that says fucking student on it. I was like, not fucking student on it, but student. Sorry, I don't know why I shouldn't even say that. But student, you know? So I think that's meant to be part of his disguise. Like, oh, I'm just a student. I'm no one special. Don't look at me. But she was just like, oh my god, you're so strong, you're so great, you can move so fast for someone of your size. He's like, oh. She's like, no, I didn't mean anything by that. It's like, obviously, Sakamoto is very self-conscious about his weight. But obviously, he's gotten a little bit more comfortable in his skin, especially like after that fight with Apart, which we never checked in on how he's doing, but they might have referenced that last episode. I think they did. I think they said like he was still in the hospital, I believe, so he's probably still recovering, because didn't Gaku cut off his arm? I believe his arm got cut off, but I can't remember. Either way, Sakamoto tries to give her one of those bullets, but she's like, no, I don't want it, because she's like, the person I respect would never, like, just accept the bullet. So she's like, she wants to get it on her own merit, which is very honorable. And she's kind of like, I know I'm probably not cut out for this, but like Sakamoto's like, you won't know until you try. And obviously he's going to probably be giving off very big brother energy going forward to her. I'm sure they're going to link up. Like I said, who knows what her future might hold, whether she'll join Team Sakamoto down the line, whether she just stays with the JAA in general, or whether she gets recruited into Slur's squad. Might even get killed if she doesn't fall in line. We'll have to see. But then we also have the guy with the face mask on, the 14-year-old, who is germophobic, which is interesting to be in this line of work. He doesn't like getting his hands dirty. It seems like he's fine with blood in general, but it's specifically he doesn't like it touching him. And it's like, where does that stem from? It turns out he's actually wearing the mask because he had to like miss the general admission because he got sick apparently because of his brother, and that's why he had to take the transfer. He's like, I knew it was going to be bloodier and grosser, so I didn't want to have to do this, but my hands were tied. He got the bullets from the instructor, but it was about to kill her, and then Shin stepped in, and the two of them duke it out. Obviously, he's a very like young kid, like, oh, you're old. He's like, dude, I'm only 21. It's like, yeah, but I'm 14. So to me, you look old. So they're duking it out. He ends up getting some blood splatter from when he ended up shooting and winging Shin, and the blood flies onto his face, and he's just like, ew, gross. So he's like, I don't want to get my hands dirty. So he pulls these things on his boots and draws out some feet blades, and he starts going to work. And I love that whole sequence of that fight between him and Shin, and just like, obviously Shin's not going in for the kill. Maybe that would play a little differently in the fight, but Shin's like holding his own against the guy. But then like Shin like realizes like, oh, this guy's extremely fast, so Shin activates his souped up ability and then lays into the guy. He's like, sorry, but there's someone I gotta catch up to, because especially after the whole slur thing feeling like pretty useless, he's like, I gotta get stronger, gotta get better, especially this new ability. It's like, I've gotta learn to have better control over it, and I also learn how to like boost it up from just the 5 minutes a day I was told I can use it. And I love the episode ends with him hitting the timer. So we'll see how that all fares. Like I said, I get the feeling like the next part of the test is the plane's going to explode and you're going to have to try and survive falling from the sky. I'm basing that purely on the intro because there's a sequence that in the opening that has something like that. So we'll see where all of this goes. I mean, because Sakamoto's already got the bullets. I guess technically 3, because the blue-haired girl didn't take it. So Shin doesn't need to do this, but it's definitely going to lead to these two becoming like rivals. Once again, maybe another person joining the Sakamoto family. Probably not. I think out of anyone, he feels like the more likely to end up on Slur's team, but who knows? Because it seems like he's really good, so I'm getting feeling, like I said, he's a prodigy. He probably comes from a very like high-class like assassin family, like the brother he referenced and stuff like that. So obviously with like the dark blue hair, I was thinking for a second, like, you don't think he's like Nagumo's brother or something like that, right? She said his name and it's like, I don't even remember Nagumo's last name, so I could look it up, but I'm like, I'd rather not spoil that for myself because I'm most likely wrong, but I'd rather not spoil that for myself. So if you do have an answer of like who his brother is, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I like to know when the show ends up telling me. But yeah, I'm interested to see where things kind of go on that front. And then finally, we had this really interesting post-credit scene, which is almost like, Uda's going off, a year ago for his infiltration into the JAA. And he has, like I said, I can't remember if it's Kashima or Kishima, and Slur sending him off. It's like, oh yeah, here's this book, beginner book for spies, and here's some snacks, and we're waving you off and wishing you good luck. It's like two parents sending off their little child to school, and it's actually very sweet and endearing. And they even saying like, hey Gaku, Uda's about to leave, aren't you going to? He's like, he'll be back. And Uda's like, don't worry about it. Hey, Gaku, when I get back, we'll go to karaoke. He's like, yeah, see ya, good luck. And then we hard cut to present day, him playing the game again, and him just, the last line just being, I'm bored. You're like, oh. It's such a unique thing that I feel like, yes, like, plenty of, like, stories can make villains and bad guys, like, sympathetic, or make you sympathetic or empathetic to them, or in some regard, I know some people don't like the whole, like, just let bad guys just be bad guys. But it's like, anime is very unique in a regard that they can, not only just bad guys who eventually become future good guys or anti-heroes, but even just, like, there's a lot of series that will, like, have fun with their villains in some regards. And it's such a unique thing to, like, everything in the anime sphere. In that regard, I mean like manga, manhwa, and stuff like that. But like anything in that kind of... Because I don't know if that's something that translates over to like Asian media outside of like that medium. Like does like Japanese or Chinese or Korean television like reflect that too? Or is that just specific to, like I said, the anime, manga, manhwa sphere of entertainment? That they really, like, you can have, like, jokey bits with your villains, which is so crazy considering, like, well, they're bad guys and they've done horrendous shit, So it's a little gray area when you were talking about, well, this is the Hitman world, but, like, another example I'll think of is, like, Mission Yosakura family. There's, like, fun bits with some of, like, bits with some of their villains where it's just like, haha, look at us jokey kind of being a family, even though there's a very like dark twisted nature to the whole, so it's a very, like I said, unique thing to this medium. I feel like I just don't see it in other mediums in that regard. But yeah, just an interesting post-credit scene. Oh yeah, I also forgot Slur also drew him a photo, and he's like, oh my god, Slur, the boss has gotten so much better at drawing. Like I said, stuff like that, it's just so interesting. But yeah, like I said, I'm interested to see where the next episode takes us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.